You know, that nagging pain, the one that keeps showing up at all times of day, when you stand up from sitting too long, when you get out of bed, maybe in the middle of the night, you're just like, you're feeling your age. I'm starting to feel it now at my young old age of 43, and I don't like it. I'm like 43 and a 23-year-old, 25-year-old mind. I'm just trying to running around here. So this happens as we get older. It's just a natural process, but we can also fix that as well. And we're going to go over aches and pains and how to stop them from keeping you be your best version of yourself. And we're also going to talk into what flow state actually looks like. This is something that I actually chase myself and have been chasing with our guest, Brandon Day. We're going to go through all this. I shared in our pre-interview a screenshot that I have from 2017 where I wrote down on my list flow state. I want to achieve flow because that's that state of consciousness. It's like game time. You're all in on that. And we're going to go over all these things today. And Brandon has a unique view on pain and talks about how it signals that your body is out of alignment in a couple different ways. And we'll go through, make sure that you understand what you're doing, how to do it to your best, because this is what he does in his practice working with his clients, is get them to achieve just a healthier, youthful state of body, but also of mind in that flow. Welcome to Driven for Health podcast, episode 101. Brandon Day, here we are. Welcome, welcome.
Nice. Thanks, Brian. Good to be here.
Yes. So let's jump into aches and pains. It's just it is unfortunate fact of being a human. You're going to have aches and pains, but we don't have to just let them get us to be older. And I'm 43 and my back hurts, and next, I feel like I'm 60. We don't need to identify with pain slowing us down in our life. So let's jump into what does pain mean to you, and what is what's one main takeaway that you want to share with our guests today? So this is like, bam, with our audience that they'll grab onto.
Yeah. So, man, there was a lot we could unpack in that little intro around pain. But the big thing that sticks out to me is that pain is not a natural process of aging per se. Although we do tend to get more aches and pains as we age, but they are not mutually exclusive. One doesn't happen because of the other,
There's
right?
no direct correlation of I'm getting older, so I should be in more pain, right?
Right. And there's plenty of evidence out there of that. I'm sure you know people that are in their 80s or
Yeah.
above and are doing great. No
Yeah.
pain, doing whatever they
I had an
want.
83 year old talking about how they're getting ready to try and run another marathon or something. It's like, holy
Yeah.
cow. I couldn't keep weight on them because they were so active. And we actually
Yeah.
had to add an extra 500 calories to their nutrition because of that activity to get their weight
Nice.
up a couple pounds. It was pretty funny, actually. She's 83 years young and just
And
still going.
such a good example because that's what I assume most of us want is,
Yes.
even if we don't want to go run a marathon, we want to be able to know that we can,
Yeah.
right? When we're that old. And that requires some things like, I imagine she's not dealing with an aching back all day, every day,
She
you
can't.
know? Yeah. So there's plenty of examples like that. My uncle was a qualifier. He was tried to qualify for the Olympic team back in like '86
Okay.
for gymnastics, and he taught gymnastics for years. And he rides horses every day, and he hikes in the mountains, and he hunts his own food back in Montana, where I'm from. And he just lives an incredibly active lifestyle. He can still do the full splits, and he's 80 years old.
That's awesome. I can go front. I can't
Oh,
go
not
side
me.
to side though. I can go front and
Yeah,
back
no.
though.
And he's just been doing it. He's like every night he just does his stretches, he does his hiking, he
That's
works on it
awesome.
every day. He can still do like 20 pull-ups. It's just incredible. And it's a it's an indicator of a deeper thing, a deeper principle, which is use it or lose it. And that's how the brain works, that's how the body
Yes.
works. Right? We got to keep doing the things if we want to maintain our ability to do those things. So when it comes to pain, like that's the biggest thing. Like pain doesn't is not a consequence of aging. It's a consequence of our brain's perception of threat from the environment.
Hmm.
And as we get older, we accumulate threats. That, ankle injury from when you were 20 years old that you never fully rehabbed, right? That it's
Yeah.
still hanging out, like causing a little bit of threat. Like your brain is saying, as we walk around the world, this thing is not perfectly stable. It's not as well mapped as it used to be. Still a little
Right.
blurry down there. It wasn't fully rehabbed. So if we do step off this curb, I don't know if it'll support us. We
Right.
might fall, hit our head, and die. So I'm going to create some extra tension around that place. And that, along with the poor sleep you've been having for the last 3 years, along with the poor diet that you have, along with the excessive stress in your job, along with, having
Water being,
newborn triplets that are all
yeah.
sick
Oh,
right now, we all
yep.
got threats in our
Yeah.
bucket, man.
Yeah. Now, the other
And when
one I'd
those,
point out is dehydration. A lot of
for sure.
people are underhydrated, and consequently, they
Yeah.
are dealing with muscle tissue quality, poor muscle tissue quality, which is ultimately just think of like beef jerky in your calf when it's trying
Yeah.
to support you. And yeah, we don't need that. But a lot of people are just literally dehydrated as a result, too.
And think about that in the terms of in the applied neurology world, we use the analogy of the threat bucket. And so it's useful to know how your brain works to keep you alive because that's really its only job is
Right.
survival when it comes down to it. And so how it does that is it takes in information from your environment. We call those inputs. It has to interpret those inputs and decide whether or not we're safe or unsafe. And then it'll give you an output. The outputs that we want are fluid movement, good balance, no pain. Those are great. Good strength, speed, reaction time, all that. If the brain perceives the inputs as a threat and our threat bucket starts to fill, then we'll get protective outputs: pain, stiffness, tension, restricted range of motion, even anxiety, autoimmunity. All of these can be considered protective mechanisms to keep us small, slow,
Hmm.
or safe.
Alive.
So,
Ultimately, at the end of the
alive.
day, that's the
Yeah,
brain's job.
100%. So if we look at it from that lens, the dehydration, like what bigger threat is there than being dehydrated?
Right.
I would think of maybe only one, and that's not being able to breathe,
Right. Yeah, that's a
which
very immediate one, right? No breath.
which
And then
yeah,
we've got what water takes, as they say, 3 days to die without water. And then food, you can go a number of weeks without
long
food
time.
before things get
Yeah.
really bad. But yeah,
But it all comes back to fuel for the brain.
yep,
If the brain doesn't feel like it's getting good fuel, then it will increase the threat dramatically just to give you a signal like, hey, we got to go get some fuel. We're starving here.
right.
And so oxygen and glucose are the main fuels, right? And you got to have blood
Hmm.
flow to deliver them. So the dehydration is a big one, of course, but the oxygen piece is huge, especially these days where we sit all the time and we're in a stressed out
Right.
state all the time. We end up creating habits of over breathing, upper chest breathing, really shallow.
Hmm.
And the weird counterintuitive thing that happens is that you actually end up in a hypoxic state in your brain. Your brain is starving of oxygen, even though you are over breathing and breathing in more and more oxygen all the time. And the key there is the CO2. You have to have carbon dioxide to
Right.
deliver oxygen to your tissues and to fuel your brain. So if we have low carbon dioxide or a low threshold for carbon dioxide, where every time it starts to rise up a little bit because we're doing some exercise or, starting to get stressed out, and over time, a little bit of carbon dioxide triggers the brain to go, we got to breathe. And then we just overbreathe, overbreathe, overbreathe. We end up hyper oxygenated. So we got all this oxygen floating around in our bloodstream, not enough CO2. None of that's getting into your brain.
That's really interesting. And we sit, even I imagine our screen like state of scrolling, just there's a
Yeah.
lot of absenteeism going on there. You just zoomed into this thing. And I even have caught myself. I don't. I try religiously, like, not to get sucked into screens and
Yeah.
wasted time because attention. But I'll catch myself in really shallow breathing, and
Yeah.
I just imagine it's even more prevalent now because people literally will just sit for hours, not moving their body at all, or getting any type of different levels of respiration going on, from just sitting to walking to actually doing some form of exercise or activity where we get the heart rate up, and that just doesn't happen much these days.
Yeah. That's that's absolutely right, and that's good awareness for you. I think if more people had that awareness, it'd be really helpful,
Hmm.
especially around screens and like social media, because they're engineered to keep you in a constant state of hyper arousal,
Yes.
just to like trigger it a little bit, like ooh, I got to look at the next thing, ooh, like little dopamine
Right.
hit, and that keeps you in this state of just low grade stress. And oftentimes, with that, coupled with the posture that we're in there and our eye movements, by the way, our eyes being converged on a point right in front of us, it activates an area of your brain called the midbrain, which is going to increase your sympathetic nervous system. And that's going to lead to more shallow breathing, like hyperoxygenation, like we're talking about. The term is overbreathing or chronic hyperventilation, which sounds like this almost panic attack, but it's not. It's really just chronic shallow breathing where you're taking in more oxygen than you need and can utilize.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I'm over here listening in, taking deeper belly breaths.
Good, good.
But
Yeah, I mean,
for our audience, let's go through just real quick timeout, since I'm actively paying attention. They should as well. Let's take a quick timeout. How do you actually belly breathe, and how do we get more oxygen into our body and not and have that carbon dioxide instead of this more, like you say, rapid breath and over
yeah.
oxygenated state? How do we do that?
Well, the simplest tool would just be focusing on long exhales. So make your exhales twice as long as your inhales. And
Hmm.
just by doing that, you're going to start to raise CO2 levels a little bit and you're going to kick on your parasympathetic nervous system and calm yourself down and deliver some oxygen to your brain. So if you did nothing but just
Right.
focus
Slow
on
down.
maybe 2 in, 4 out, or just lengthen it out as far as you can, that'd be a great tool just to start doing right now,
Right.
even without having to worry about, the mechanics of breathing. But then you could definitely get into like, am I up in my chest? Am I feeling tension in my neck and my jaw? And is that related to all my breathing being up here in the chest? And shifting that to your diaphragm and your belly is really powerful as well for the same reasons. So I like
How
to
about through the
use,
nose or the mouth?
oh yeah, always breathe through your nose unless you have to breathe through your mouth.
Hmm.
Like we're talking
Agreed.
right now, so I'm going to be doing a
Agreed.
little bit of breathing through my mouth. But even then, I want to ideally always breathe through my nose. Breathing through your mouth is should be saved for high intensity activity. When you breathe through your mouth, you're actually triggering to your brain that we need more oxygen and stress level is going up. Like we have to fight or flee. So it's going to kind of ramp things up a little bit in order to do that. So just the act of breathing through your mouth is going to raise up your sympathetic kind of autonomic nervous system a little bit and keep you in a little bit more of a stressed out state. So always breathe through your nose and try to breathe into your belly. I usually say like 360-degree breathing. Like I want you to breathe into your belly, push out the sides and into your back to activate the full
Mm,
diaphragm.
okay.
And something like as simple as like a shoestring around your midsection and try to breathe into each part of that string can be more than enough to bring your awareness to that and get you breathing down in your belly and calm your nervous
Right.
system down.
Now, when he says
Yeah.
breathing into the belly, we're activating the diaphragm. So the diaphragm is pulling down on your lungs to increase that intake of air and then oxygen CO2 exchange. He's not actually
Mhm.
talking about breathing into your actual stomach and having burps or something like that.
Yeah,
Just
you don't fill
just
your
to be able
belly
to
with
tell you.
air.
Right, right. So we're just elongating the lungs in the actual proper way that you are meant to breathe. So excellent. So we got
Yeah.
some breathing down, and we need to have that proper oxygen exchange. And how does this relate to aches and pains?
Yeah.
Coming back to that.
Yeah. Perfect segue. Because I was gonna say, like, breathing oftentimes is one of the main contributors to low back pain. And really just
Okay.
widespread or transient pain in general. Transient meaning comes and goes, it might shift around. A lot of times I'm looking at breathing as a main issue there because that fuel problem in the brain, it's like your brain doesn't feel pain, right? So when it's low on fuel, what's it going to do to tell you that it's low on fuel? Well, it doesn't really have a good mechanism except for pain. Pain's a
Mm,
great mechanism to get your attention, and that's really all pain is. It's a signal to get your attention, to get you to change something or stop doing something. So, pain in general, if we can view it from this neurological lens, that it's 100% an output from your brain to keep you safe and to protect you from something, then we can look at all of these different systems, these inputs, to try to remove threat and deal with the pain. So, you had mentioned that you have been having some like sit bones, like glute pain from a
yeah,
recent
I was
thing.
playing with my kids on the last heavy snow of the season, and I tweaked it, or say agitated it on a run.
Mhm,
I ran 2 extra miles, I guess, than I was supposed to, or whatever. Come on. But that got it sore, and then 4 days later, it snowed heavy. Want to take my kids out to sled ride, spend time with them. They literally did, there was three out of the four were there, but the middle two boys, they just wanted to wrestle with Papa, and they would
mm,
not let me up the hill. And I'm just fighting and pulling, and they're pulling on my leg, and we're slipping and sliding and just having a blast. But then, like 20 minutes later, I went to run, foot slips on the ice snow stuff, and there goes my glute. And I knew instantly, this is not a good, this is not good. And within
mm,
20, 30 minutes, I had the bracing, the tension and tightness. I could barely stand up. It's a lot better now. I can squat. I biked 2.5 hours yesterday, or 2 days ago outside, biked 2 hours yesterday. As long as I'm not sitting on that point on where it's definitely feels like it's piriformis, feels like it's on the sit bone, the tendon connection there. But I'm about 5 6 weeks out, and I probably, based on everything I know and research and all, is still going to be another. I'm 50% the way there, as long as I stop agitating, or I don't try and go run again. Because the last time I went and ran 2 miles, I felt like a 2 week timeout setback,
mm,
because it was just agitated every single step. And to describe to people where it's on my left leg, and when I reach out and my foot is getting ready to brace on the ground, that's when it starts to activate, and it's that bracing sensation that is causing the pain, so that people understand. And that's necessarily so much of a the movement pattern through the walk, but then when I start to lift up again, start hitting the hamstring and the glute, that fires it up again. So there you go. That's the glute pain hanging out.
yeah, great description. So what I want to kind of point to is number one, it's been, well, you had a little bit of a re-aggravation,
Yeah,
but
about 3 weeks in, I went out to run. It was the first nice day. It was 50 degrees out. I was like, oh, Brian wants to go run and tested, and that wasn't a good idea.
so we know from like regular tissue healing that if something was, micro tear in
Right.
there or a strain of some kind, it can take 3 to 6 weeks
Yep.
to heal that. So you were at the front end of that
Right.
tissue healing
Right.
and then re-aggravated it, and it's been 2 to 3 weeks since
Right.
then. Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, so we would want to, in a regular rehab kind of process, we would want to not re-aggravate it, right? So
Yep.
that tissue can heal, and that's fine. And you can do other things as long as you don't re-aggravate it, right? Cool.
Right.
Well,
Right.
the
The
point that I
biking
wanted to
is
make
no big a deal,
biking's
especially
great.
on a stationary. I can bike, and I just have to make sure that I'm not actually compressing the tissue on my sit bone on the seat. So towel, I have a towel that I sit behind my sit bone, so it raises my butt off the seat, and I've been managing just pretty good with that. And I get up every. I'll bike upwards of an hour to 2 hours at one go, but I'll break it up and take 20 minutes, and then I'll go walk a little bit to just relieve the tension in the movement pattern, and then start biking again. Or I'll break it up into 2 sessions in the day while I'm working.
Nice. That's a great protocol. Because what you don't want to do is not do anything.
Yeah, I feel like my fitness and my leg muscles are deconditioned. I feel like all
Yeah.
of a sudden I just lost like a year's worth of leg training if I just sat
Well,
around and did nothing. That'd be horrible.
yeah, you would, and
Where'd my
that's not
quads
ideal.
go? My quads don't
Right.
fell out my shorts when I go to put them on this summer. Like, where'd they
Yeah,
go?
exactly.
Oh yeah, I just
Yeah, we
sat
can't have that. Can't
eight
have that.
weeks.
Beach season's coming up.
Oh, exactly.
But and this has changed recently in rehab, kind of research that we don't like the worst thing we can do is do nothing, especially when it
Yeah,
comes to tendinopathy or tendonitis type
yeah, that's
issues,
exactly what
soft
it
tissue
is.
things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
Tendinopathy.
what does that actually mean? It just means inflammation of the tendon,
Right.
right? There may have been some little micro tears. It's likely that there was based on
Yeah.
the
There
trauma
was a
that
pop,
you
so there
experienced.
was something
Yeah.
happened. Yep.
Did it get black and blue?
I didn't look at my butt cheeks, but I don't think so.
What?
I was
Well,
just
that's
like,
okay. That's okay.
honestly, I never thought about it.
There was likely some tearing in there
Probably.
a little bit. So
Yeah.
you have to go through the tissue healing process.
Yeah.
Um, I doubt that you caused much damage in that 3 week little re-aggravation. Like you would have felt pretty intensely the
Yeah.
pain and maybe
Right.
another like pop or strain if
Right.
you
It was
re-injured something
agitated, but
significantly.
it
Yeah,
wasn't.
that's probably more of a just
Yeah.
a protective mechanism. Like your brain's like, hey,
Right.
Brian, we just went through this. What are you doing?
Don't go run yet.
Quit it.
It's not time.
Stop it.
I mean,
We're not
Brandon,
done.
my oldest son Levi, he challenged me to run a marathon in September. I mean, come on, man. I got to be ready. I got to go.
Yeah,
And if I have more time, then I don't have to do a lot of miles in a week. But if I start
true.
having less time because of injury, then I have to start running more, which will then increase my likeliness of injury again. And I don't want that.
Yeah. So here's what I would do with you if you were my client. First of all, I would continue what you're doing on the bike because the most important thing for a marathon is your cardiovascular
Yeah.
health and fitness, right? So you can
Hmm.
get that on the bike, on a rowing machine, whatever. You could get that in the pool, doing some swimming, whatever you can do that's pain free. And then we rehabilitate the actual site of injury and reintegrate it with your running mechanics. So the first thing I always do with anybody in pain, even if they're in the acute phase, is that I'll go to a different area of the body that communicates with that area. And this is the joy and pleasure of working with the nervous system directly, is that when
Yes.
you know that pain is just an output from the brain, okay, then we can do anything to affect that pain. Anything that removes threat from the bucket and tells the brain that we're safe, then that can help to reduce pain and reduce inflammation and all that. So we have a concept called opposing joints in neurotraining or applied neurology,
Yep.
which is
I'm
based on your gait.
familiar, but
Yeah.
explain it.
So based on your gait mechanics, we are contralateral bipedal humans, which means we move with opposite sides of the body. My brain knows, actually, this is not even at the level of the brain. There's something called central pattern generators that live at the spinal cord level that tell your body to move without your brain's input. Walking is one of these. You don't have to think
Right.
about walking. You just start the movement and your brain, your spinal cord and
Off you
your
go.
muscles just take over. Swallowing is another one, breathing is another one. Like
Right.
swallowing, you just initiate it, and then all those muscles of your esophagus and then all your digestion, it just takes over. So those are like spinal cord reflexes, we could consider that. So because of how that works, my right leg moves forward, my left arm knows that it needs to move forward too. So with opposing joints, because we make this big X, then we can work with the joint on the opposite side of the body to get a lot of times 50% or more relief in pain for that joint without working at it at all. So if we use yours, you like, well, let's just say it's your hip because it's easier to think about for a second. My
Right.
left hip hurts. Then the opposing joint for that is going to be the right shoulder.
Right.
So I can take that right shoulder and I can move it in a very specific way, or I can just do some circles, maybe do some shoulder presses, right? Move that joint around, and that's going to communicate with that left hip. It's going to work to kind of remap that hip through force transmission. It's going to work to activate those spinal cord reflexes through something called reciprocal inhibition, which you're probably familiar with, right?
Yep.
When we have a muscle imbalance and one muscle's tight, a lot of times when we go to activate the other muscle, its antagonist, it won't work very well because this muscle that's tight just won't shut off. Usually, like when I do a bicep curl, my triceps got to shut off. We need to inhibit
Right.
that muscle so it can lengthen
Right.
out, right?
Right.
But sometimes in pain conditions like that, that's kind of it's misfiring a little bit. Well, when I activate this right shoulder because of that spinal cord reflex, and it knows that when I move my left leg back into extension, my right arm and shoulder has to go into extension. Those muscles kind of activate together. So if I want to turn off the extensors over there because they're causing this sits bone pain because the glute won't shut off and the hamstring is tight and won't shut off, then I can take that other shoulder, the right shoulder, into flexion and do some circles, do some exercises in flexion. And that's going to activate the hip flexors over here because they work together, thereby inhibiting the glutes in the back. Okay, so in a roundabout way, again, those two joints are communicating each other on opposing sides of the body. So that's a great tool. And it works for
So
soft
I'm
tissue as
going
well.
crazy on front raises then, right? Here the
You could
next
be
couple
doing
of weeks.
well, so the way to get really precise with it is we got to talk about when does it actually hurt? And you said it's when you're going into the heel strike phase of
Yeah.
gait. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So
When
when your
I'm
foot's
in
out,
locomotion, another time that I feel it is when I'm sitting and there's an overstretch on my hamstring. So think of a car seat. I get into a car and the butt goes down and the thigh knee part is up, right? I'm in that more of a stretch and I'll feel it there and I have to sit more on my right side to elevate my left hip to
okay, okay.
take off the stretch there. I haven't stretched my hamstrings much. I probably should start here at some point.
Well, so that's actually an interesting, like counterintuitive thing with tendon injuries or soft tissue
Right.
injuries, especially with the hamstrings. The hamstrings often
Mhm.
feel tight, but for most people, they're not tight. They're actually lengthened
Mhm.
and they're
Yes.
loose, and the quads and hip flexors are tight, and they feel tight like they need to stretch because the pelvis is anteriorly rotated. So the
Right.
connection where your sits bones is at, the sacrotuberous um, ligament there, and all the way down past your knee into your calf, that whole hamstring's lengthened out and it
Right.
feels tight. But really, what it needs is it needs strength. It
Right.
needs to shorten.
A lengthened muscle is a weak muscle for everyone listening in, and then take
Exactly.
the example that I always remember really well about what he's talking about, anterior posterior tilt. Your hips have are a bowl of water, and anterior tilt means that your bowl is going to spill water out the front. And so what he's saying is the back of your hips are higher and causing this hamstring to be elongated while your quads are squeezing and pulling the bowl forward, causing it to pour out. And this is this antagonistic what he's talking about. So
Yeah.
the quads are firing, not allowing the hamstring to work, and consequently, you think you have tight hamstrings, but they're actually lengthened and weakened. And we need to actually do some corrective exercise here with. hamstring
Yeah,
strengthening and relaxing the quads so much. And chances
exactly.
are in that situation, there's probably a lot to do with your posture of sitting a lot and having tight hip flexors and quads and such. And then you are um, just you just never stretch your quads either, so they're just naturally tight from
Yeah,
sitting again.
it could be for sure. And that's exactly right. That's a great visualization. And what we know from research on tendinopathy specifically, the kind of exercise that's really helpful is eccentric loading. So it doesn't have to be super heavy, but doing some like Romanian deadlifts
Mhm,
or something that's going to kind of elongate under load, pretty slow and controlled. And then, either dropping the weight and coming back up, but avoiding the concentric shortening
mhm.
phase because that's where most of the injury hurts, where most of the injury happens. But then doing just
Okay,
eccentric loading in
this
your
is great.
rehab phase can be really helpful. And then
So
you said then,
RDLs and Brandon,
yep.
that's where I feel it. Whenever I lean forward, say I'm brushing my teeth and I'm leaning forward, you're ready to spit out the toothpaste after I'm brushing, then I'm feeling my sit bone firing because of that stability and that squeeze. But I
Hmm.
need to start strengthening. This is a good tool to be able to start correcting that. I over the summer I had a
Yep.
couple calf strains because I the last 10 years I have 4 kids and my oldest is 16, so do some math. My youngest is 10. So do some math. I was in crazy parent mode and child
Yeah.
rearing and bringing up a young family. And I could find time for lifting weights, which I wanted to primarily make sure that I maintain muscle mass in my 30s, getting into the 40s, which I think I did a pretty good job of. And then but I couldn't have time to run or develop my cardiovascular system. So that had suffered in a sense. And because of that, I walked like crazy, just so much walking while I was on phone calls and just a very busy time of life. So I'm getting deconditioned in my cardiovascular system and my calves coming from a heavy endurance background, running marathons,
Mm,
ultra marathons, bicycling, triathlons, all that stuff in my late teens and to about 25 to 28, probably about 28 is when I started to shift. And so I start running again because I have more time available and I can squeeze it in my day more. My kids are at school and stuff, and I end up straining my calves because I'm running too fast. And that was a whole
mhm,
summer predicament. And the whole reason I bring this up is it finally, after straining them, it was this right leg, then the left leg, and then the right leg.
mm,
And if I tried to run too fast, I'd doing, I'd pluck that Achilles and it'd fire. And it ultimately came to my attention that my calves were weak. And I had not considered that with all the walking, but the lack of running in a sense or cycling and all those things that made my legs strong was not there after 10 years. I still have, say, shape to my calf. They still look like a runner's calf, but the capacity and the fitness and the strengthening and all that stuff that was there, it wasn't. And I was trying to place the same amount of load because Brian's 43 with a 25-year-old brain. So like, let's go. And my body is not quite there. So I had to basically do calf raises, standing and seated calf raises, and that did the trick. Like within 2 to 3 weeks, calves stopped being annoying and started
nice.
working. And now I just make sure that I add calf training at least once or twice a week to do a couple sets. And that's made a significant difference in keeping calf strains down. It
So
took a
do you
minute
do
to
it?
figure that out.
Sorry to interrupt, but
Oh no.
can you tell us like what how you're loading it? Are you doing like 100 reps? Are you doing like eight
About
for strength that are
15 to
really heavy? Or
20. Yeah, I would do it with a dumbbell. I had an 80-pound dumbbell. You could actually, the treadmill right behind me, I would just get up onto that and I hold an 80-pound dumbbell and just do some standing ones. And then right in front of me is the Smith machine, and I'd use the crossbar and then the little lip of the foot of the bench that I have. And
mhm.
I would use that as the heel lift, and I would do seated ones as well. So I'd intermix those standing and seated, but generally the range was about 15-ish or so, and that worked out just fine.
Nice. Yeah. So what's crazy about loading in your calves is every step that you take, walking, ground reaction forces are, right?
Hmm.
Every time we step, for your audience, we we accept more than our body weight up from the earth. This is Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So every time
Right.
your heel hits the ground, the earth presses up against you. And because it's not perfectly efficient, the earth usually presses up more. So you're accepting about 1.5 times your body weight with every step you take, which is why in all training senses, if you want your body to change in a certain way, fix your gait, fix the way that you walk. That will help your posture and the way your body looks and everything more than anything else because you're accepting a ton of load. Like if you only walked around all day and you took 10,000 steps, 10,000, I mean, I'm 200 pounds, 250
Yeah.
or 300 pounds in each step, 10,000, that's like a
It's a
billion
lot.
pounds or something.
Yeah,
It's a
right.
lot,
It's a
right?
lot. That's
Now,
a easy
if
math
you,
there, right?
yeah, if you are jumping, you're going to be getting like 5 to 6 times your body weight. And if you're
Yeah.
sprinting, it's going to be up to 9 times your body weight with
Oh.
every step. That's an
Hmm.
insane amount of load. If you were to
It
go
is.
in and do calf raises to try to get that much load, you'd have to do like 500 pounds on your back on one leg, like
Oh, geez.
100,000 times. It's insane, right? So running and sprinting are some of the best ways to load up your lower body and to do lower body training. But yeah, like you experienced, you can't just go from 0 to 100 right away. So
Yeah.
many people come to see me after injuring themselves after
Yep.
sprinting without doing the proper prep.
Right.
It's so common.
Hmm.
And
Uh-huh.
it's, you know, the other thing, so don't do that, everybody.
Right. Yeah.
Take your
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
take your time.
A simple
Use Coach
question I'll
Brian's
throw out
example.
there. Yeah, a simple question that I always pose to my clients because this is back from my personal training days, years ago, many moons ago, 2004 or so. I became a personal trainer in the gym, and quickly, I learned that I do not over exercise or potentially hurt my client. Why? Because that directly affects my bank account, right? Because they don't come
Right.
in the next time because they're sore. And if I do that repeatedly, they stop being a client. They go to the guy, my coworker, and work with them because Brian's too hard. The quick question for anyone listening in that I always shared was, can I work out tomorrow? For 99% of anyone that Brandon and I would ever work with, that's really legit advice. You don't need to overdo it. It's progressive overload over time. And that's just the way it works. And
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah.
how you should follow that. And you should be able to
And the
train tomorrow in a sense and not do too much today.
Yeah, and there's lots of great tools out there to kind of assess your readiness, like HRV and everything
Hmm.
like that.
Or even the
With
body battery on a Garmin or something, right?
nice,
Strain and the whoop and all that
yeah, they're great. They're great, and they can be pretty accurate. As a you want to look at
as a
patterns over
tool.
time, of course,
Yeah.
as a tool,
Right.
yeah. But the best tool that anybody have, and of course I'm biased because I'm a neuro trainer and I'm a brain guy, but being able to actually have a dialogue in a sense and be in tune with your own nervous system and therefore your body and judging your readiness that way. And we use a very simple assessment process that anyone could do anytime to judge in a moment your nervous system's level of threat. And therefore, when you start to do this for a while and you start to get in tune with where you're at, you can judge very accurately, how your body's readiness day to day and in the moment, and also be able to change it in a moment instantaneously. And therefore, make yourself ready or make sure that you're
Take
accurate
some
in
more
knowing that you're
rest.
not ready, right?
Yeah.
So,
You built some good suspense here. I'm interested.
yeah,
What's the
so
simple thing?
It's very simple, and we really just use any kind of any kind of proxy to see how the nervous system is organizing movement, and we can judge the level of threat based on that. So if that sounds like gobbledygook, that's fine. It's a range of motion or a strength assessment or a balance assessment, or if you're in tune with it, your gait is your best assessment. Like, how am I walking? How is it
Okay.
fluid? Are my steps narrow or are they wide? Right? Am I loud and clunky or am I soft like a ninja?
Mm.
These
My
can be
wife would
really good
say I'm always
indicators.
loud. So,
Yeah. So that's
but you
inefficient
walk like an
movement.
elephant. I'm
Me
just
too.
walking.
Like a horse, like clonk, clonk, clonk.
93 I weighed on the scale the other day. So I was like, I'm not the
Nice.
lightest guy. So I'm going to make
Hey,
noise when I move.
I will push back on that because who was it? I want to say it was Shaq, but like
Okay.
some of the biggest guys in the world can move soft. So
Okay.
one of the best examples of this is
Ninja
I
like.
I worked with a shot putter, and
Those are usually big
this dude,
guys.
this dude,
Powerful.
this dude was 285, but jacked, like
Okay.
so
Yeah.
huge, and he walked like a ninja. You could not hear him coming around the corner because his
Wow.
gait was so efficient. He was not expending any more energy than needed to, right? And then I've seen, a 100-pound woman walk like a Clydesdale, not
Right,
size,
right.
but loudness, right? You could never she could never steal anything from anybody, so they'd hear it coming a mile
Right.
away. And it's all about the efficiency of the force transfer, right back to Newton's third law. And for you and your injury, that's a big part of it. Is like when you step every step with that left foot, that force needs to be transmitted throughout the entire system. And if it's getting stuck somewhere,
Yeah.
like at your sits bones, which
Yep.
is right where it crosses over into the other side,
Yeah.
then it's all of that force is going to come up against a wall and it's going to create, like, it might create damage actually if it just gets stuck there and it has nowhere to go, or it's going to go right back down to the ground and you're going to end up with foot pain, ankles,
Right.
knees, even hips. Um,
Real quick on that, just to throw it out there, just make sure people are
mhm,
paying attention. We have pain at a spot that goes upstream or downstream. So pain, say at your knee, if you have knee pain, there might be something in your foot or your toe causing issues, or in your quad or your hip that is causing the knee pain. Just to throw that out there. And that's exactly what he's referencing, is if it's getting blocked and it's going to send the energy back down my leg, next thing you know, my big toe's hurting. It's like, why is my toe hurting? But
sure.
that's caused from the hip and this compensation that's happening in the toe joint to move my body in an inefficient movement pattern. So then next thing you know, I am the
Exactly.
Clydesdale horse walking down because I'm wobbling around and stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's the reason why a lot of times the pain will move around after we're walking on it for a while. So, great example. Um, the just because I want to like give somebody the tool because I don't want to leave a loose end there. If
Yeah.
you were to,
Close the loop.
if you were to, yeah. So if you were to assess any range of motion, and I usually ask somebody like, what can't you do? Show me what you can't do. And you'd be like, well, my shoulder gets a little stiff. So, okay, show me that shoulder flexion. Let's see where it's at, like how much room you got in between your ear there. And then
Okay.
we'll do some kind of input, anything. Could be a vision drill, a vestibular drill, a breathing drill, a movement drill, or exercise. And then we retest it. So, one of my favorites of all time is to just smell because it's an input that goes straight to your brain and it's
Okay.
very quick. So usually
Yes.
one side or the other will be a better smell for somebody, and it could be anything. Like I just have my coffee here. I love the smell of coffee. Usually you
Me
want it to
too.
be something positive. Like if it's
Okay.
dog crap, you might not enjoy that very much and it might
Yeah,
increase your
right.
threat level, right? So just be choosy. So if I smell it, on that right side, then it will improve
Okay.
my range of motion
Yeah.
significantly, right?
Yes. So if anyone's watching on video, if you're not listening, he originally lifted his arm up and got about maybe an inch. Yeah, I mean, you weren't moving, you're just doing it. It was maybe an inch
Yeah,
bicep from his
just a little
ear was
gap.
about an inch. And then he smelled his coffee, just took a big drag up the nose. And then it easily, fluidly went straight up to his side to his ear. There's
Yeah.
effortlessly in the visuals here. Just want to call that out for anyone listening in.
And so that just tells us that my level of threat overall reduced. And so my range of motion improves. When threat goes down, the brain will just kind of take the foot off the brake and our performance will improve. Now, that'll probably go back. It's already starting to stiffen up a little bit. Yeah, that's about all I got. It's back to what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's normal. Like, it's a functional change that can happen in an instant. But as threats accumulate, like I got some pretty bright lights in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
As the threat level creeps back up, the joint starts to tighten. So, like anything, if we want something to change and stick, then we need repetition and intensity. So, that's where our corrective exercise comes in. That's where, repeated bouts of training the nervous system and the brain comes
Right.
in order to get neuroplasticity and leverage that and actually create those new pathways and make them stick. Like you were sledding, I think we talked about this before one time, like greasing the groove, right?
Yes.
As you go down the hill, you make your first tracks. There's a little friction. You don't
Right.
go so
Right.
fast.
You
But
definitely
as you
don't
go
go
down
fast or
that,
far.
yeah. But as you continue going down that same path, it gets
Oh
more
yeah.
slick. It gets
Yeah.
faster and faster and faster. That's
I'm
what
just
happens in
gonna
your
say
brain.
this, Brandon. The best at where we were at, the best is that I was able to get all the way to the other side of the block. That's how good of a
Nice.
run that we were able to grease that groove and go all the way down. And each time you get a little bit farther than just inch, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, I'm all the way to the other road. It was pretty epic. My kids were there; they saw me.
That's awesome. Yeah, and how do
Uh,
you make it faster, quicker? You get a running start,
yes,
right?
more
Or you
momentum.
add some load in the sled to increase the momentum. That'd be increasing
Put a
the
kid in
intensity.
there. Right.
Yeah.
Right. We have someone
So
push us. We've got
exactly.
two people on the sled. We've got a running start. There's a lot of different ways to load and recreate that.
Exactly. And so the brain works the same way as the body. You got to load it with some intensity and repetition in order for things to change. The cool thing about the nervous system and brain is that they change a lot faster than the body. What would take, weeks for us to see change in our muscles or losing
Right.
weight, that kind of
Muscle
stuff.
hypertrophy, building muscle takes a long time, unfortunately.
Yeah. Neuroplastic change is a lot faster, which is great. Now back to your pain. I just wanted to throw these couple things out there.
Okay.
Because you mentioned them. I wanted to circle back really quick and then we'll kind of
Yeah, then
close
we're
the
going
door
to
on that one.
flow.
Yeah, so the a couple things that you mentioned like posture and then of course the activity that aggravates it. So posture, I'm gonna link them both into one training modality that they
Okay.
point to for me, and that's kind of two things. One is the area of your brain called the cerebellum. It's the little brain that sits in the back on the bottom, and it's really dense. It's got 50% of the neurons, but it only comprises 10% of the volume of your brain, and it's hugely important for accuracy, balance, and coordination, ABCs of movement. Okay, so anything that's coordinated movement that requires balance, cerebellum's hugely involved. That would include running, right? Now, the
Okay.
other thing that is incredibly important that gives a ton of information to your cerebellum about where you are in space and also is just incredibly important for keeping you balanced and your equilibrium is your vestibular system or your inner ear. So you got these two little gyroscopes that live behind your eyes. They're about the size of a dime back here in your skull. And they are constantly answering two questions: where am I at? And where am I going? And if they're a little bit off, then you're going to require more resources to process the world.
Right.
Now,
That makes sense.
if we're just walking around the world or we're seated on a stationary bike, they're doing very little processing. Right? They're always on, but they're kind of like at gear one, easy.
Okay.
As soon as we start moving faster, they got to process faster. And if there's just a little bit of discrepancy, then let's say we got a little bit of discrepancy that creates 30% more resources required to process. They're going to fatigue eventually, right? Now, the thing is, they don't have a way to tell you that they're fatigued. They also don't have pain receptors, right? So they can't feel pain. So they're going to give you some kind of threat response or protective outputs to tell you to change something. So what I'm saying is that with you, I would definitely look at your inner ear as a place to complement your regular rehab, like your soft tissue rehab. And so for that, basically, you can use that assessment process that we just learned, right?
Right.
Like a shoulder or a toe
Right.
touch or even balance. Balance is a great assessment. And then test, looking at an object and turning your head in different directions, bouncing your head up and down, which is a lot of what running does, right?
Hmm.
Your head's getting up and down and it's moving back and forward through space. If you can kind of look at those three movements of your head and reassess them and see, you know, is there one that's causing an issue? Then that's something that you definitely want to rehabilitate also. And that's a
Right.
really common one. The reason I bring it up is because it's so common with any of my endurance athletes. If we have a vestibular dysfunction, it's usually contributing to pain big time. So there you
Interesting.
go.
With my
Yeah.
ear, I would not have thought to look there or listen in to that. Very good.
Yeah.
I yeah, well, I will. I'll clean it out a little bit more too, right?
Perfect. Yeah, you got to be able to hear your environment for sure.
Let's move into flow state. So we talked about a lot of aches and pains, super informative. I haven't had anyone on the podcast that go into depth like you have on aches and pains and stuff. So thank you so much for that. But I also want
Yep.
to look at the other end of your spectrum, the flow states. Let's talk about what brought it on in the first place. First, what flow state is, what brought it, the reason why you chased it, and to get to it, and then where you're at now with it.
Yeah. Um, so that's a great segue because at the other end of that spectrum from pain is flow state. And simply put, it's our optimal state of consciousness where we feel and perform our best. So it's those moments of like totally rapt attention where you're absorbed in the task at hand, so much so that everything fades away. Your sense of self fades away. Your time starts to change, speeds up or slows way down. It's an incredibly rich and enjoyable experience. And it offers a lot of pain relief, you know,
Oh yeah. Yeah,
neurochemicals,
endorphins and all
endorphins.
sorts of
Yeah.
things going on in your body.
Yeah. So back, 50 years ago or so, when it wasn't like really well understood, it went by many names and it still does. Runner's high being one of those.
Right.
And it's really fascinating, like the evolution of flow and how it came about in human beings. And one of the theories is the runner's high theory that it was required for humans because humans can run forever. Like that's one thing that separates us from a lot of other animal species is that we can run for a long time. And the theory is that that's how we found our prey, is that we would just
Right.
outlast them. Like the
Right.
deer running in the Serengeti would run really fast and get away from us, but we would just keep
Just
trucking.
keep trotting. Yep.
And if you
Yep.
keep going, you eventually hit that runner's high. And they think that evolutionarily this was really beneficial. And so the trait was carried on because the ones that could cut out the pain and keep going and enjoy the experience would be the ones that got to eat.
Right.
So they
Makes
think that
total
maybe
sense.
that's where it came from. Anyway, it can happen in any activity, granted that the conditions are right. So it's kind of the We could say it's kinda like the antithesis of pain. It's like the perfect state of consciousness where you have no pain and everything is firing on all cylinders. And so that's kind of the evolution of what I take people through is, aches and pains, like kind of struggling, burnt out, fighting against their body and brain, to achieving flow consistently and predictably. And whatever their sport is, whatever, like most of my clients, to be honest, are playing the sport of life. And they're
Yeah,
really trying to get their cognitive performance to be the best they can be for their family, for their business, whatever it is.
right.
And their sports, their athletics is kind of secondary to that. But anyway, it came about for me because I played college football and had a lot of head injuries and a lot of chronic pain afterward. And I was very fortunate to play for an awesome team and a great coach and staff. And I mean, it was pretty magical that time. I played in 3 national championships. We won 2 of them. Um, and so I had easy access to flow
Yes.
states.
Right, right.
That's what it came down to,
All the
right?
time when
We were
you're in a
Yeah,
championship level and like you're sitting the sidelines, just like get out there and let's go and it's all in
exactly.
and getting the
Yeah.
reward
So
out of it.
yeah, yeah, which was nice. But like you said, you don't get to that level of competition and, like, you don't get to repeated national championships unless you have some kind of secret sauce, and it was flow states that was our secret sauce, when it comes down to it. And there was a lot that went into that, the culture being the biggest piece of it, but
Right,
I lost access to that, and I didn't know it, and so I kinda
right,
floundered around for 10 years, in pain and having mental health issues and substance abuse issues and just kinda trying to find flow in a lot of
right.
unhealthy ways that I didn't know was going on. Then when
If
I
you have no
stumbled
one
upon
looking at real quick, if you have no one paying attention or help guide or mentor, and you've been under a coach and obviously a phenomenal coach and environment, then you get left off into your own, then you have exposure. And that same thing with, say, guys in their 40s is all of a sudden
Yeah,
I had another previous guest, Albert, who was a CPA, and on episode 90, and he talked about how 40 to 60 is some of the hardest life you're going to live because there's a lot of transitions of kids starting
mm,
to leave the nest, your parents starting to grow ill and or die, your career either excelling and you're making the most money you've ever had, or you get fired, laid off, and you have to go another place and pivot, and that's where that, say, midlife crisis comes in. And so we have this very turbulent, challenging time. And if you don't have someone or something anchoring you, especially amongst the culture that we're in with attention seeking behaviors and instant gratification, you will flounder. You will not do well by design of our own misdoing
yeah,
ultimately.
yeah,
So that's
that's
what you started to experience. One more thing is I
mhm,
warned my son. He's very much a attention and driven. He is 16. He ran a marathon already. He wants to run another one in May. He raced triathlon. He's a state qualifier, and he placed 22nd, 27th in the 100 and 200 yard swim freestyles just
nice.
recently. So he's starting to achieve these accomplishments and all this. Plus, we've taken him all over the world. Basically, he's been to all 50 states and multiple countries and continents doing. If you name an activity or an experience, there's a large percentage chance that he may have experienced that. And I'm just telling him now, hey, you really have to think about this because if not, you're going to run into a dopamine crash when you're 25. And the only thing that's going to get you off is doing a skydive from space or something. So be
Yeah,
careful, but I will be there to help and support him so that he doesn't go amok and cause a lot more harm than good in a sense. But just throwing that out there to guys listening in. Yeah,
yeah,
we want
you hit
flow
on
in a
a
positive way.
yes, you hit on a bunch of really important points. The last one, maybe the most important, which is that when we're not aware of it, we can tend to lean on the flow triggers that get us to that state most predictably.
Right.
And for a lot of men, risk is a big trigger for
Right.
everyone, but it's a trigger that they pull more often than women for sure. But if we're not aware of it, then we just keep chasing risk because it gets us to flow. And you see this
Right.
in an action adventure sport athletes. You mentioned the skydiving from space. Yeah, 100%. And it's
Yep.
like any addiction, you're chasing that pink dragon of flow in this case.
Right.
And if you don't know any better, you just keep pulling the risk trigger. But
Right.
it doesn't have to be risk to like your body, right? It could be just for risk's sake. You could do like risk of humiliation, right? Public speaking is a great example
Oh
of
yeah.
a safe way to pull the risk trigger,
Right.
right? We know it's baked into us that the fear of public speaking. It's paralyzing for some people, but the point is that you can pull risk in other ways. Like here's an unhealthy example, but also pulling the risk trigger, gambling.
Yes.
They're
All
risking
the
their money.
sports betting, right?
Yeah, which is so huge now, and it's terrible for young men specifically
Yeah.
because they don't
Just
have
FYI, it's gamified and they know what they're doing in the
oh,
background and they're targeting at risk people to get them to play harder. And just if you're out there
100%.
and you do listen in and you do the apps and the sports betting, it's rigged. It's a casino, man. The house is gonna win.
Yeah,
Like it's not a good gamble. It's just
and
gotta
it's no
say that out
different
loud.
than yeah, and it's no different than social media. They're both engineered to hijack your dopaminergic system. It's hijacking your attention and keeping you
Right.
there for as long as possible to help you like the draw is flow, but you rarely get there. But it's the anticipation of it that keeps you going back and
Right.
pulling the trigger harder and harder and harder, and it just doesn't it never leads anywhere good.
Not
But if
usually,
you know
especially
that,
with some of those addictive
yeah, if you
behaviors that
can be
humans have.
aware of it and what they're doing, and, like, going back to the risk trigger for, like, action adventure sport athletes, there's nothing wrong with those sports, they're fantastic, and, like, I love them. I do a lot of them. But you have to understand what you're playing with, right? And if
Right.
if all you're playing with is the risk trigger, then you will have to go bigger and bigger every time. But if you can throw in some other triggers, like the challenge skills balance is probably the golden rule of flow. If you can increase the challenge in some way that is just above your current skill level, you're more likely to find a flow state. And you can increase the challenge without increasing the risk. For example, I went skiing the other week and I am not super skilled right now because it's been 10 years, right? And I also don't need to be going off a bunch of jumps, right? When I'm not
Right.
that skilled.
Black double
And
black diamonds. Let's
yeah,
go.
I've got a bunch of kids at home that need me to have a functioning brain, right? So what can I do to increase the challenge? Well, I just started to like, I'm still doing the fairly easy hills, but I added in a little bit going up the berm, going down. Trying to ski backwards, so flipping around. It increases the challenge. Yeah, the risk a little bit, but it's nothing like going down a double black diamond that I'm just
Right.
not ready for, or going off a jump that I might hit my head if I fall.
Right.
So, silly example, but there are many ways to, if you can be creative, to increase the challenge in anything that you do so that you can have access to more flow.
Ah, this is good. What is the thing that you enjoy most to get to flow? Is there a certain process or routines or experiences that you look or seek out that get you to flow?
Well, that's why my company's called Evolved Athlete, and because sports is like my favorite.
Hmm.
Just because I grew up doing it, and I'm a very kinesthetic person, so I love movement
Yeah,
and the
me too.
complexity of movement and the challenge. So I like pickleball. I like skiing.
Cool.
I like golf. and pretty much any sport, even working out. Like there's pretty good access to flow, but
Hmm.
sports are more fun because they usually involve other
Right.
people, and that's really important. Like you can absolutely find flow. Like we're kind of in it
We're
right now,
flowing.
right?
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
flowing.
One of the best ways to find flow and a very much a heightened sense of it is what's called group flow, which could be just two people having a conversation, or like my college football team, all on the same page, going for the same goal and just in it to win it, right? We're all on the same page. We're clicking. We're of a shared mind almost. Those are much more intense and gratifying experiences when you start adding in other people. So I like to, and it can be very simple, like a family game night, right? Or getting together with your
Yep.
friends and
Yep.
doing something together. It could be a sport, it could be, going dancing, it could be game night
Something
or
without a
trivia.
screen. Something without a
Yeah.
screen, people. For the love, just
Yeah.
connect. Put
Yeah,
it
for
down.
sure.
Stop staring at them. Connect. Doing something else for the
Absolutely.
love.
That's required. That is
Yes.
required for a
Right.
flow state. Although you
Agreed.
can, I'll put a caveat that like social gaming can be
Sure.
one
Yeah,
way,
that can be flow, right?
but it like video gaming, however, that's a harder one that can be more destructive. So I
Right.
would just
Yep.
caution people
I
with
would
stuff
too.
like that. It's much better to be in person, away from a screen and actually interacting and playing off each
Right.
other, like
Agreed.
improv comedy.
Agreed. Agreed with that. 100%. Flow state is something that I want to, and you do have to prepare for it. There is a preparation, there's a reps, there is sequencing that stacks the deck in a way to create those challenges, those outcomes, those inputs and outputs in your body and your mind. And then what you're able to actually do and accomplish as a result of the flow state is really exciting. So when you can just sit down, as my oldest would say, lock in and get to
Yeah.
it, then you can create a lot of really cool, impactful things in your life to better you, better the people around you, and that's the probably the biggest reason why I seek out flow is for those interactions to be enriched, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I always tell my clients, like, when you make flow the goal, the outcome takes care of itself because now you're
Oh,
focusing on the
totally.
process. Yeah.
Right.
And if you're focusing on finding flow, you're gonna produce your best work. You're gonna perform at your highest level. Every world championship, every Guinness Book World Record, every
Right.
amazing work of art, literature, or otherwise is because of a flow state.
Right.
So when you make that the goal, you're going to produce that awesome thing, the best thing that you can in that moment. And over time, that starts to compound and becomes exponential because flow begets flow. And so when you
Hmm.
find it, you get more of it. And you start, like you said, this is why sports is so great, because it teaches us a lot of things, especially about flow. And we hear about superstitions all the time. And to me, they're just stacking the deck, right? They
Yep.
have a specific ritual that they go through that
To
is going to
create.
help them find that state of consciousness. That's what
Right.
those are all about. And I would never poo poo them. I think they're important,
Yeah.
right? For helping people find that state of mind that they
Right.
need to be at their best. So we can do that with anything we do. Like when I get up
So,
and,
wearing my underwear inside out right now for to be prepared for this podcast. No, I'm joking.
absolutely. Do you clean them though, at least?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but that's, if that's what it is
No,
for
it's,
you, it makes
uh,
makes you feel your best, and then that's it. Do it. All right.
I'm joking. But yes, yeah, there's so many different rituals and all that. This is flow is and if someone hasn't been tapped into flow, they should seek it out because it does produce really positive outcomes when done in the environment, the situation, the outcome that you're seeking. Again, we have to focus on the inputs of what we do have control over in our worlds. That's how you create the long-term outcome of whatever it is that you want. It's a reason why Brandon and I are where we're at in our careers and business because be putting in thousands and thousands and thousands of reps working with people to help them better themselves, and finding those experts and creating the environments with the clients to become their best as well.
That's right. You got to get the reps. You got to get the reps. But
Hmm.
I would also say that you can find a flow state at any level of skill.
Yes. Oh, very much so. Yeah, it's not years away. It can be literally today. You can find flow in
Yeah, it's
whatever
all about
activity
adjusting the
that you're doing.
challenge,
Right.
adjusting the challenge and adjusting your expectations. Like I can't go
Yeah, very
out
much so.
skiing and expect to, ski like I have a cousin who's a professional skier, one of the best in the world. His name's Tanner Hall. I don't expect to go out there and be like Tanner. No,
Right.
I need to be like Brandon and like rein it in, buddy, and realize
Right.
where your limits are and just push up against them just a little bit. Like what's
Right.
scary for me is nothing to him,
Right.
right? And that's important, right? We need to adjust our expectations and play at the
Right.
level where we're at right now. And also surround yourself with people that are just a little bit better than you. So they
Yes.
push you just a little bit, because that's also very helpful for getting you out of the comfort zone
Yes.
and into the
Hmm.
flow zone.
Yes, exactly. Doing it with other people with a common goal is going to be huge.
Yeah.
This has been an awesome conversation with you, Brandon, talking about aches and pains,
Yeah.
going into flow, and be able to accomplish that. What is, let's wrap up. What's one key takeaway from our conversation you want the people to take and leave? And then we'll talk about where we can find you and all that.
Sure. We covered so many avenues. I would say probably the biggest thing to take away from this is that number one, pain does not equal injury, and injury does not equal pain. And that
How about
whether
with
it's,
this is aches or pain doesn't equal old
yeah,
as well.
exactly. Exactly. Age is just a number, and there's no reason to have more pain as you age. In fact, it should be less as you get better and more in tune with your body and optimizing your brain and your health. So, bust that myth. And then also, you can access flow states in all areas of your life right now. It doesn't require anything but a brain and a body. And if you tune your environment and get rid of distractions, you are more likely to get it with doing nothing else. So, adjust your challenge and your skills, get rid of distractions, i.e., your screen, and go out there and live a life that is tuned to flow, and you'll find more happiness and enjoyment and less pain. So,
Excellent so much. Thank you so much for all the things you shared today. I hope that everyone was listening in, took some really good gold nuggets here from this. Brandon, where do we find you?
you can head to my website to check out my 21-day program that I'm running right now. Get athletes out of pain and into momentum to find more flow. That's at evolvedathlete.coach. Or you can check me out on Instagram at I am Brandon Day, all one word, or my school community, which totally free. At school, that's SKOOL.com/evolved.
Yep. We'll have that all of that in the show notes for you guys to check out. Excellent. Well, the biggest things that I'm taking away here is that just because my age keeps going up doesn't mean that I have to identify with being old or aches and pains. I can live a life that is fun, that's enjoyable, that's experience focused, and working constantly toward flow and being able to just challenge myself and a little bit more each time so I develop reps. I enjoy the experience every step of the way to get to the outcomes that I ultimately want. And by working at it and staying focused on it, then that allows for that experience and expression of who Brian is and how he serves. Even this being the 101st episode of Driven for Health, there's been a lot of reps. It's been over 4,000 minutes of me talking to my computer in the last couple months to create this for flow, for expression, for all these things. So thank you so much. And we will send you off. Everyone else, we'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.